Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and today on the podcast, we're talking about how right now in the coffee industry, there are a lot of things that are compounding the effects of what's happening on top of the pandemic that is causing what could be called the perfect storm for a few challenging years ahead for the coffee industry across the value chain. It's important that we look at the entirety, close to the entirety of all of those compounding effects so that we can understand how our role in the value chain is going to be hurt or hindered or helped by these compounding effects, and how the way that we operate in the value chain might then go on to affect other people or other stakeholders in the value chain. If you're enjoying the content that you watch on this channel or that you listen to on this podcast listening app from Map It Forward, please consider subscribing, liking, rating, and reviewing. It really does help us grow the content of this podcast and the reach of this podcast. Before we get started, we just want to shout out the Coffee Roasters Mastermind group headed up by coach Ante Bikic. Ante is the Danish national coffee roasters champion and is doing a wonderful job as the head coach of our two Coffee Roasters Mastermind groups. If you're interested in becoming a member of the Coffee Masters Mastermind group, head to the show notes and click on the link and consider joining today. Okay, so the perfect storm that's happening in the coffee industry. What is it? What does it look like? How is it potentially going to affect you? If you've been paying attention on recent episodes of the Map It Forward podcast, as well as episodes of the Daily Coffee Pro, you will know from the conversations we've had with Jonas Fijareso, as well as Alejandro Cadena, as well as an upcoming episode with Judy Gaines, who is a commodity broker and economist. You will know that together with the conversations and discussions we've been having on the Daily Coffee Pro, that we're experiencing issues from all different angles in the coffee industry. So on the producing end, we've got the issues that are happening at origin from the beginning of 2020 all the way up until now. And those are things like the drought that happened in Brazil through 2020, 2021, as well as the frost that came after the drought in July of 2021. That was 3 bouts of frost. We've got COVID hitting the second largest producer in the world after Brazil. That's Vietnam, and that's hitting Vietnam quite severely right now, as well as the geopolitical issues that happened in Colombia that stifled being able to get coffee out of Colombia because of a lot of strikes and protests and the government shutting things down. Now that's producers 1, 2, and 3. You've also got in Ethiopia right now issues happening with civil war in the Tigray region that are causing unrest all over the country. Now that's 4 major coffee producing countries that are experiencing issues with regards to being able to get coffee out of their countries. They're also, when we look at Brazil, it's not just a logistical issue of getting coffee out of the country. It's that the frost events plus the drought compounded effects on top of each other that have led to a decrease in yield. Now, when you get an opportunity to watch the conversation with Judy Gaines, you'll understand that Brazil typically has on hand, the Brazilian government typically has on hand coffee stored so that it can assist with any shortages in yield. Yield is the amount of the crop that's produced and how much coffee can go into a bag to create that 60-kilo bag. Judy does an amazing job of explaining how that situation is hurting Brazilian farmers, as well as how and why there's no coffee in storage from the Brazilian government. So we've got a legitimate shortage of coffee happening now in Brazil because of the drought and because of the consequences of the drought plus the frost, we are going to see the on-flow effect of that over the coming years. Additional to all of that we just spoke about, we are seeing a serious container shortage around the world. So even for countries that are able to get coffee to the ports or coffee produced and at the mills, they can't actually get it onto boats because there aren't containers anywhere. And the reason is because of major backlogs in ports that are unloading containers, and the ports are not allowing them enough time to put containers back onto the ships. So huge issues there. And that's just at the producing end. On the consuming end of things, in cafes and in roasteries, we have a couple of other challenges on top of things that are bubbling from the producing end. We have a severe labor shortage. That is a huge issue. And if you've been paying attention on the podcast, you'll understand why there is a serious concern that a lot of the staff from the hospitality industry that were given leave during the pandemic because government were giving them assistance, a lot of people are deciding that they're no longer returning. And so we have labor shortages to deal with. We have inflation to deal with. We also have big issues with the Delta variant causing lockdowns, businesses to shut down and open up and shut down and open up, which is causing a huge disruption to flow of business. Consumer behavior changing is the last thing that we want to talk about today, and we have been talking about it on the podcast, but it's the last compounding effect that's having ramifications for small businesses. Consumers are choosing to, when they're in lockdown, we have seen that the shift in consumer behavior is that they're brewing at home. They're no longer leaving their home because Delta variant either has them scared or because they invested in the equipment and have decided, well, I've got it, I may as well just use it. So they're buying roasted coffee typically from supermarkets, where supermarket sales have gone out of control with roasted coffee. And they're brewing at home, so they're not visiting their local cafes anymore. We're absolutely seeing that here in Australia, and I'm hearing it from many of my colleagues around the world, as well as in our mastermind groups. So all of these compounding effects are going to absolutely affect our industry long term. And it is formulating for the perfect storm. The next few years in the coffee industry are going to, without a doubt, reshape the business model. And if you're not on top of how this is going to affect you and how you're going to adapt and pivot, I'm afraid that you may, over time, see that people are no longer connecting with the way that you do business, or unfortunately, you may see your business go out of business. By getting informed in how all of these things could affect you and how it could affect the stakeholders around you in the value chain could very well be the thing that helps you survive the next few years in the coffee industry. If you have any questions, comments, if you agree, don't agree, whatever, please tell us in the comments or let us know on social media at IMapItForward. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.